Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tosh Customs, and today we are taking a look at my custom Marvel Legends Judge Dredd. Now you might be asking, why in the world is this video being taken at your desk and not in your normal filming station? Well, that's because I am filming this right before I'm going to ship this guy out. I was invited to join the legendary secret summer swap, and I completely forgot about the end date. So I'm shipping this guy out about a week and a half later than he's supposed to be out, and I'm sorry for that, for whoever's supposed to receive it. I'm sorry that it's late, but I wanted to still film a review for you guys because I'm very proud of this, and this took a lot of work. A lot of the parts here are 3D modeled, and I want to just talk about my process real quick. So this obviously is Judge Dredd, going for a very, very classic look. And we do have some kitbashed parts here. So starting off, let's talk about the base body. The base body is the new Marvel Legends Cyclops. He's the, I think, of the Astonishing X-Men version, so normally has gold lines all over the suit. So the first thing I did was I popped the Cyclops head off. I checked the tolerances, so I sanded down in the shoulders a little bit, and I sanded down like the inside of the shoulders as well, just to give a little bit more clearance. And then after that, I took acetone. You want like high strength nail polish remover acetone. You dilute it, because high strength acetone, if you don't dilute it, it will actually start melting your plastic. So you dilute it, and then I took Q-tips and I just rubbed away all the gold paint. So I cleared it off, and it's just the normal plastic underneath now. After that, I had to figure out, what else am I doing? What do I want to 3D print? What do I want to outsource? What do I want to kit bash? And so I finally decided on the Marvel Legends Scourge boots. So like mid calf down is the Scourge boots, and then the bottom feet here are from the not Marvel Legends, sorry, Star Wars Black Series. I think it's Fifth Brother. I believe he's the one with like the cap, but he has these boots that look very, very similar to Dredd boots. And I opted with these because, one, my goal was to create Dredd, but two, it was to streamline him a little bit. If you look at like the original Judge Dredd art, he's very, very skinny, and then everything else is super, super big and blown out. And it just didn't really make any sense, especially to like design a figure around. Because to get a skinny body like that, he would be very small, and I wanted him to have like a decently imposing figure. So I opted to buff the body out a little bit, and I opted to streamline some of the armor and boot parts so that they're a little bit smoother and a little bit sleeker. So we opt with these boots. Alternatively, I was thinking about using these red Daredevil boots and sculpting some of the like Judge Dredd little grips, I suppose, on the sides. So that was another option. And then after that, once I figured out what I had kit bashed, the other thing I had to figure out was hands. So I guess I'm talking about kit bashing. We also bring along a Mezco Sovereign Knight Batman belt that has been repurposed, Supreme Knight grapple holder thing. And then after that, our hands come from the Vulcan Build-A-Figure, I think it's Bonebreaker Build-A-Figure, because Bonebreaker already has olive green hands. So I was like, that's perfect. I'll get hands that don't need to be like sealed or repainted really, and I'm not going to need to worry about paint rub, especially with trigger fingers. That's always the annoying one, is dealing with paint rub, because then if you have a trigger guard, it will rub against your trigger finger, and it's just a bunch of pain to solve and to work with. It's just no fun. You always want to find hands that are the final product color, because that makes your life the easiest. And then last but not least, I picked up a Mezco Dredd badge, because I am not good enough at 3D sculpting to do lettering and make it that even. So I decided to just outsource that part of the project as well. So now in terms of 3D modeled parts, I created a custom 3D model head for Dredd. and I think that turned out really, really well. Both shoulder pads, so we have the giant eagle shoulder pad on the right side, as well as his sort of like over the shoulder pad on the left side. Both those are custom printed. The belt symbol on the eagle, if it focuses, there we go, that's a little better. Also 3D printed and modeled. And then last but not least, I also designed the elbow/knee pads, which are just different scales of the same model. But we get the elbow and knee pads as well. And then finally, I hand sculpted the gloves. So I really like this because he has sort of like the long glove, and he sort of has like a reinforced cuff that goes to the glove itself. So I think that looks really nice. And then I took Marvel Legends pouches and sanded them down and sculpted them in to the arm. So in terms of paint, and I think this is where the Dredd really shines, because from a like kit bash sculpting perspective, he's really not too heavy on it. You know, there wasn't like I had to sculpt texture all over his suit and do some crazier things with the mold. So the two big questions for this guy were, I'm dealing with seamless joints, which essentially means you can't really 100% sand them down. Because you can't get access to these joints, the only thing you can do is cut the pin inside. But that means that you're always going to deal with lower joint integrity from then on out. Like there's just no way really around it. The only thing you could do is maybe get like a very small screw or nail, run it back through the arm, and then sculpt over it and like seal it up to hide it, to reinforce the arm after you've cut that pin. But stuff like that is a real pain, and I did not want to have to put that kind of labor or that kind of engineering into this guy. Like, this is no offense to anyone, but this is a summer swap. You know, I'm not trying to spend $200 on parts. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with this custom. So I'm trying to figure out the best way and most efficient way to go about this project. And so the Cyclops body turns out really well because it's a dark blue undertone already. So I knew that my elbow joints and my knee joints, I was not going to have to deal with paint rub because they're already the right color. So now after that, it's a matter of how do I make a suit that is just normal blue plastic look good. And so the first thing I did was I black washed everything. And so you get these really nice dark shadows in all the lining of the suit, in all the wrinkles of the suit. And I really like that he has this like sort of seam line that runs up the center of the suit, and you get some really, really nice shadows in there, as you can see. Really nice black tones through all the light in. You can see it in all the musculature of the arms as well. Looking really, really good. So black washed everything. And then after that, I took Angelus leather paint sapphire. I mixed sapphire with model color matte black. And then with that, I kept working and tweaking the ratio until I created a very, very nice dark blue that I dry brushed the figure to get like a base deeper blue. So essentially I'm using the plastic as my main blue. I'm getting a deeper blue color in there. And then after that, I mixed in some Angelus leather paint white with it and together lightened it to get my highlights all over the suit. And so the reason why you might be asking, if you're going to do highlights anyways, why make a darker blue? So there's a couple things with the paint choices here. One, Angelus leather paint is very smooth, but it also has a tendency to be a little bit sticky. So you're not going to really get paint lines with it, but it will like, it can accumulate dust and things like that if you just paint with this alone. It's because it's designed for leather. And so leather is a very smooth material, and it's, you know, already sort of water resistant. And the way it works is just, you know, the texture of leather doesn't really hold stuff to it. However, plastic is really easy to get dusty, and it's just sort of the reaction of it is it doesn't like the paint and the chemicals in this acrylic paint, whatever it is, it doesn't quite absorb into plastic the same way as it does with leather. So when you do it with leather, you get a very clean, smooth, waterproof feel. When you paint it on plastic, it leaves it very sticky for a long while. So to counteract that, I'm using this model color black. This is a very sort of like dry, thick paint in general. It's smooth to paint with and there's nothing wrong with it. But when you have matte paint that sort of finishes chalky, when you mix it with that sapphire, what you end up getting, or with the leather paint, what you end up getting is a very, very smooth brush stroke, very clean finish, but it's not going to have that sticky texture because it's been sort of mixed with this more matte, more classic model painting acrylic medium. So with that, as you can see, he gets like this very nice semi-gloss, but it's, obviously you guys can't feel it, but I can tell you it feels very smooth. It's not chunky at all, and this is all hand painted. It looks like it was airbrushed, and that's just knowing your medium and mixing your paints really nicely. So that's what it turned out to be, and I'm really, really glad and really, really happy with the result. So then, hand sculpted the gloves, and now it's about color matching to these hands. So I'm looking at the hands, and I know that they're sort of this olive green, and obviously these hands have some brown wash in them, you can see that. But looking at the inside of the hands, you can see it's just sort of like this bright olive green. So my goal is, how do I paint match that? So if I'm looking at this green, what I have already is this flat olive green, which is already pretty close. But when I'm comparing it, I'm seeing that this is a little bit darker. But it's not darker on like a black-white scale. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dark it with brown. So I'm using this flat green from Model Color again, and then I'm mixing it with Angelus Leather Brown. I'm working on my ratio, and I finally color match it. And so now you have the elbow pads color matched, the hand sculpted arm, or I guess gloves, hand sculpted gloves. I was about to say gauntlets, but I'm not quite. Gloves, knee pads, and boots. So once again, knowing your medium, there's a lot of color matching going on. Color matching to the body, color matching to the hands. And now finally, about 3D modeling. I can't give you a tutorial for 3D modeling. Most of it's practice, understanding your sizing and your scaling. But I am very, very proud of these heads, or this head, as well as the other 3D modeled parts. Once again, my goal was to streamline Dredd a little bit. And so I decided to, instead of going with the super big bobblehead look, I'm going to tighten the helmet a little bit around the head, and I'm going to redesign some of the layers of the head sculpt as well. So actually, as you can see right here, he's got like this little eagle wing motif coming off the side of the crest there. Obviously, it's going to go unpainted, but I do have those lines there. I have a couple little sort of like tech lines hidden throughout the suit. Even on the shoulder pads, you can see there's these little bolt holes all in the armor there. So just a ton of little tiny nice details. And then coming over to the eagle shoulder pad here, as you can see, all the feathers have been textured across the eagle. And then I like sort of the tail feathers, because the tail feathers I went with almost this flame pattern. So he's got the blocky wings, he's got more of a realistic texture on the eagle body itself, and then this sort of flame motif for the tail feathers. Coming down to the belt buckle, as you can see, also very nice and clean. I really like how this American flag paint turned out right there. And then knee pads. Knee pads are modeled very, very similarly to the shoulder pad, but they're not the same model at all. As you can see, there's a lot of sculpted and weathering on the surface of the shoulder pad. Knee pads and elbow pads don't have that. They're a little bit smoother. And then the edge of this is actually textured, and you can see the sort of this ribbing around it, because I wanted it to make it look sewn. I wanted this to feel like a hard plate, and I wanted these to feel sewn on to the top of the suit and have, padding sewn underneath the top layer. So that's what I opted for there. So that is the Judge Dredd figure. I'm also really, really proud of painting the little light reflective lines across the visor. Really happy with that. I mean, I could talk about painting on the skin and stuff like that, but I think the only other real thing I want to touch on is how I painted the gold, because I feel like that's pretty impressive. So what I did was I printed everything in black resin, and then what I did was I took Angelus black And once again, it's a stickier medium. And so what's nice about that is it acts as like a really nice primer, even though it's not really a primer. So I ran that over as a base color. Then after that, I took this Lumiere gold paint, true gold, and it's a very deep um, low tone gold. It's not very shiny. And so then I dry brushed that over all the surface. And then to get a really nice bright shine, I use this Createx Parlex airbrush gold. This type of gold is specifically designed for airbrush, so it's very, very thin coming out of the bottle. And what's nice about that is you can use it as a very light top coat. It's not going to be thick like most of your other acrylic paints. And so then it was just top coating all the armor and the feathers and the belt buckle, stuff like that. And then after that, I ran a very, very thin black wash into the cracks of like the cracks and the battle damage, as well as in between those higher level gold plates. And likewise, same thing to really pick out those tail feathers and all the texture detail on the eagle, and even some of those little lines on the belt buckle right there. Also ran a black wash through the Dredd badge so that you could see all the details there, and I think that also turned out great. In terms of articulation, obviously double joints in the elbows, arm hinges all the way out. You still maintain the butterfly going back and forth there. This shoulder pad is connected to the top of the shoulder, and so it flexes up and it can move back and forth as needed. And then this one here is also connected, or this one's connected to the upper shoulder, or maybe the traps really. This one's connected to the shoulder itself, and so this one will actually follow with the arm. And I think that turned out really, really nice as well. And then yeah, what we also have obviously is trigger finger hands. And then last but not least, I did create a custom Lawbringer pistol. I had to decide, because when I looked up Judge Dredd gun, there's like a bajillion different versions of it, and it really seems like it's based on artists, like comic series, a bunch of different things. So I ended up saying, okay, the way the gun looks doesn't really matter too much. There's a handful of classic things to keep together. The classic Dredd gun has sort of this like curved dial meter over the top, and so even though it's not quite painted like it, I did keep sort of that general shape up the top of the gun. I think the original Judge Dredd movie version sort of had like some silver bits in it, so I brought some of that silver into these little bolts on the top here, as well as this little sort of like sight piece in the back. And then all the Judge Dredd guns always have some glowing red, so I added some glowing red in the venting on the gun as well. Now, what is this gun? The main base of the gun is from G.I. Joe Classified Major Blood, and then I also took a Zartan pistol and cut it to match sort of that trigger guard and the under part of the gun. So I cut it and sanded it to match. So now it has like a deeper, just has like a deeper lower to it. And so it just looks a little extra techy. It looks a little extra fancy. So I fused those together, and now you have the new custom Lawbringer pistol. And then I used the Sovereign Knight back clamp, and it turns out that this just slides in and meets the angles perfectly, which is super, super cool. So you can just slide it in right there, and it nestles in there beautifully. So that is my custom Marvel Legends Legendary Secret Summer Swap trade figure. I'm zooming out here a little bit. I'm very, very happy with how he turned out. I think he turned out great. And I'm super happy for someone to get him on the other side. I'm really, really excited for that. And so I hope they enjoy this figure, and it's everything they hoped for. I really put a lot of effort into this, and I hope that comes through in the video as well as the finished project when they hold it. So I'm grateful to be a part of the Summer Secret Swap. I will do a review probably whenever I get my trade. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the support of the channel. And yeah, just happy to be here. So I will catch you all later. Take care.